Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Trivial Objections. Once again, I'm your host, Jared. Today we got a little smaller group today. It's just going to be John and Adam with me, and today we're going to have hopefully a very productive and interesting debate on what I like to call drugs in America. It's pretty broad, and I have a feeling we're going to get into some political discussions on drugs. But you guys we're each going to bring up a topic that we've considered about drugs, and then hopefully we can have a meaningful discussion. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Good. So I feel like we should address the elephant in the room, and by elephant I mean this plant. It's green. And I'm looking at this little graph right here. It says, hold on a second. I think you guys would be, I don't know if you'll be surprised or not surprised, but this is a graph that says marijuana use by teenagers in the past 20 years. What percentage of 12th graders in 1996 would you say were using marijuana regularly?
12th graders?
12th graders. So yes, senior in high school.
20-something%.
40%.
40%. Okay. Interesting that we got two pretty different answers. The correct answer is actually 22%.
Damn it.
What do you think it is now? Well, actually, as of this graph, 2016. So 20 years later, what do you think the percentage is now of 12th graders regularly using marijuana?
High 30s, low 40s.
John?
40%.
No, it's actually 22%.
What? That is surprising.
It has
wow.
no change in use among 12th graders or seniors in high school in America in the last 20 years. That's interesting, you say. Why is that interesting? Because, as you guys know, and I'm sure our listeners know, marijuana is becoming more and more, I would say, accepted.
Mainstream,
more mainstream. But the use of it has remained relatively the same. So, what do you guys contribute that to?
Shoot, man, I'm really surprised by that.
I was too.
The availability is still the same regardless of where you're at. I mean, yeah, legalizing it recreationally has made it more easy to obtain, but it's been around for so long, and people, I don't know. It's just everybody's views on weed has not changed in the past 20 years. So I think that is what's contributing to the lack of an increase or decrease in usage.
So
I feel like it's so much more. Oh, go for it.
Go ahead. Good.
I feel like it's so much more socially acceptable than it was 20 years ago. Like even since, man, like 2012, 2013, I feel like it's way more socially acceptable now than it's ever been. Or even in 2016, it was more acceptable. So I'm a little surprised that it hasn't gone up. I'd like to compare it to if there was ever a graph I could see about other drug usage and if it's gone up or down, because I feel like that has to play some kind of role, but maybe not.
So it's funny you should ask that, because I do have some statistics on other drugs. So let's go to alcohol, for example, and we're going to use the same study. This is among 12th graders. So it's the same time span. So 20 years. This report is 1996 until 2016. This is a 12th graders who regularly drink alcohol. Regularly. Let me see if they
What's
define.
regular? Does it define regularly? That word.
Let me see. It does not define regularly. Unfortunately, darn it. I thought it did. But anyway, so but this was the same survey, so In 1996, what do you guys think the percentage of 12th graders drank alcohol regularly?
30%.
Yeah, I'd say about the same.
Okay. So in 1996, this survey says 51%
Holy shucks,
of
dude.
12th graders drank
much?
regularly. 51%.
Wow.
That was in the year 1996. Now in 2016, what do you think that number is?
I'm scared to even think about
70?
it. Shoot. Yeah, 60 something?
John, what'd you say?
70.
It's actually 33.2%.
Oh, nice.
It's gone down?
It has
Hope.
gone down.
There's hope.
In 20 years, the regular alcohol abuse among teenagers has gone down. That's across the board, actually. So in 10th graders, in 96, it was 41%. And in 2016, it was 19.9%. And then 8th grade, 25% in 96 and 7.3% in 2016.
You're a quarter of 8th graders in 1996 were drinking alcohol. 8th graders?
Yeah, that's according to the National
Wow.
Institute on Drug Abuse.
Wow.
So that tells me a lot.
I never even drank alcohol until I was done with high school.
For real. I'm regularly is the thing. Like maybe kids, I can imagine an 8th grader trying it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like regularly?
Or something.
It's what it says. Let me check. Let me just make sure.
I believe it. I'm curious about the numbers. That just seems like it's awfully high. And I mean, yay, that only 7% of 8th graders, but do it now. But
alcohol use. Oh man, it doesn't.
Well, gosh sakes! I mean, that alone shows that where are they?
Right, like was it easier for them?
This was from the 90s, correct? It was so much easier to purchase alcohol in the 90s, I feel like.
That's true.
Why do you say that? The alcohol laws haven't changed in 20 years. Like
I know,
not that I know of.
But I think that I just think it was booze, and I don't have anything to back that fact up. I'm just going off of what I grew up around.
Sure.
And seeing people underage and how easy it was to get alcohol. And then when I was underage, granted I was in a smaller group, but
I was incorrect about this. So this was actually students who have used the drug in the last month. So it's not regular use. My apologies. But still, that's
okay.
It kind of illustrates the decline in alcoholism, hopefully. But how marijuana stayed the same, and I have a few other drugs as well, and this one is really enlightening to me. So, cigarette use.
Oh boy.
In 96.
Down.
In 1996, 12th graders claimed that 35% of them had smoked a cigarette in the last month. In 1996, that was seniors in high school. As of 2016, that was 10.5%. And then that keeps going down. So this is mind-boggling. In 96, 8th graders, 21% of them said they had smoked in the last month. Now that's 2.6%. The only thing that can really make sense to me is that this health awareness of our generation. The fact that we're more health aware and health conscious, and that we know more about the effects. Because I don't like cigarette laws. I don't have they changed much in the last 20 years.
I don't think that the laws have changed much, but cigarettes, I completely can see that one because I remember watching like Saturday morning cartoons as a kid, and they had all the anti-smoking commercials. You know what I mean? Even like on a kids channel. You know what I mean? Like encourage, because obviously they probably knew that it was a problem even for 8th graders. And so I remember watching those commercials even as a kid. And like growing up, they've always had those commercials. I feel like it's always been a push to stop smoking from being such a thing among young people. So I'm not surprised with that one. I'm obviously with the other ones I am, but
sure. Yeah, John, what do you think contributes to that? Is it education?
I feel like there are more social movements about it as opposed to maybe the laws not changing.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But I also have another statistic. Cigarette use has gone down, but e-cigarette use has gone
tripled.
up. So this is the same survey. We don't have results from 1996, but we do have recent results of 2016. So e-cigarette use among 12th graders, 12.5% of them had said they had smoked an e-cigarette in the last month. But they kind of gave a reason for that as well. So there was 62% of them said they used it for flavoring, just like the flavored vapor, I guess. That's really weird. And then 24.9% of them said they used it for nicotine, 6.8% for marijuana, and 5.6% other. Which I don't know what other is, but
because it makes you look cool.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
I don't think e-cigarettes came out until like 2003 or 2005.
Sure. Yeah. So in this survey they don't have it for 1996. It's just for like this year, but
invented in 2003 by Chinese pharmacists and didn't hit the market until 2004.
That's crazy. Okay. And here's some other random ones from this survey here. Vicodin use. In 2012, 7.5% said they'd used it, but in 2016, 2.9%. So like it's not as high on these other drugs, but the main ones besides marijuana have seen in huge declines in use.
Okay.
I find that interesting because there's been kind of the opposite campaign. So with alcohol and cigarettes, kids are told like it's bad for you, you get in trouble, blah blah blah. But there really hasn't been that big of campaign against marijuana. Is that just because it's not as bad, or is there other factors contributing to that, you guys think?
I think the fact that now the FDA and science has seen all the benefits and let alone the lack of negative side effects just goes to show that it's not the gateway drug that it used to be thought of as.
Mm-hmm.
Well, clearly these statistics would say no. Like, use of marijuana has remained the same, but all the other drugs have gone down. So
probably all us 90s kids that heard marijuana is the gateway drug, and then they're like, oh, it's not.
Yeah.
Show you.
Seriously so. So I think we can all agree, and maybe you guys don't, you can give your opinion, but that we're headed towards a federal legalization of marijuana. What effects, if any, do you think that will have on, the use of it or the economy? I know for sure it's going to have an effect on that, but what sort of effects will it change if it will change anything?
Man, I think you'd see so many changes. Go for it, John.
No, go ahead, Adam.
I think you'd see a lot of changes. I don't know if marijuana use would go up or go down, to be honest, because I know a lot of people who smoke marijuana multiple times a day, every day, and they say, they've done it for literally like tens of years. And to this day, they say like, part of the reason they do it is because it is exciting. It is rebellious because, a lot of them are in states where it's not legal. I talk to lots of people and they say that's totally a part of the reason they do it. It's not the only reason they do it, but that's why they got interested. So maybe they wouldn't even try it if it wasn't illegal. I don't know. But then the fact that it's legal and literally anyone can try it, maybe the numbers would go up, maybe they wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised either way. But I do think absolutely that you would see other illegal drug use go down if marijuana was legalized. I don't know, Ron Paul talks a lot about it, and I haven't looked at any of the statistics, but he quotes it a lot on his shows about how, people turn towards harder drugs because something like marijuana that is not so harmful and yet is effective in a lot of ways, especially for like therapeutic uses where instead they can't get it because it's illegal in so many places. So they turn towards other illegal drugs and then abuse those, and those are so much more dangerous. And so I do think that, and marijuana now, it's not just, you don't just smoke it. You can get THC gummies, you can get THC pills, you can get so many different ways of accessing it, and it has different effects on you that I don't know. I feel like if it was legal, it could be used for so many different things, especially for therapy and for health reasons and stuff like that. And I feel like people wouldn't have as big a need to go towards those other harder drugs. I absolutely think that those would go down for sure. I think that the opioid epidemic would be not an epidemic anymore anyway. And then obviously you can see from like places like Colorado that the economy boomed there. So you would imagine it would boom in the country as well, but.
Sure. John, what do you think is going to happen?
I think, okay, so federally making it legal, recreationally, and medicinally.
Yeah.
I don't really think there'd be a huge change on much besides economics.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, so think of all the Department of Transportation jobs, think of all the factory jobs where they drug test. They can still make it to where their employees can't be high at work. I mean, they can test for that. So
yeah, just like you can't
you're
be
not gonna
drunk at work, but
exactly,
alcohol is legal.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Right.
You're not going to see a change in the employment structure. You'll see an increase in jobs due to the fact that more people have to grow and distribute marijuana. But I think for the most part, it will just bring in more revenue and it'll only help. Adam, you were kind of talking about how, people that have smoked and it's not thought of as bad because it's not as habit forming. Trying to think of where I'm going with this. So other harder drugs, people do it less frequently. It's harder to access, and I mean the side effects. So you take this drug, say it's meth, say it's coke or something. You're going to have a huge high. You're going to be really energetic, on cloud nine, hyper, etc. Someone that really likes feeling up and about is going to be really addicted to that, and the habitual use of that kind of drug is so much more devastating to your brain and your body than marijuana. So it's almost like comparing apples and oranges when you're comparing marijuana to, say, methamphetamine or LSD, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah, that makes sense.
scientifically they do opposite things, right? Like,
Correct.
isn't THC, isn't
One's
it
synthetic and the other is grown.
right?
Right. But I mean, so like, and like, this is me not being educated enough on it, but I mean, I know marijuana is used for lots of health things. Does it help with any pain stuff whatsoever? I know it can help, I know they use it for seizures and stuff like that. They can use it for things, things similar to that, but like pain use, is that any different?
Yeah, I believe so. I think you can be prescribed it for pain. Helps with seizures, helps with appetite. So if you have trouble, for whatever reason, eating, it helps with that. Helps with sleeping, and stuff like that. So it's got a lot of, everyday uses that, if taken in moderation or taken in proper dosages, observed by a doctor, there's no reason that, it can't be helpful. I think, us as a society have come to accept the medical use of it. I think it's just more the controversial recreational use. So,
Right.
is
But
it
I mean,
harmful?
I was kind of thinking of the fact that, you know, I think that a lot of people may use it, obviously, for, maybe they'll go to, a lot of times with the opioid thing, in particular, they'll start having to take the actual pain meds because they need them for, maybe they broke a bone, maybe they had a kidney stone, who knows what the heck happened, but they need them, but then they get addicted to them and then they can't get the pills anymore. So they'll turn to actual heroin instead of Oxycontin and things like that. That's what happens. That's the big reason that there's the epidemic nowadays. But I feel like maybe if they could have marijuana, it wouldn't be as bad, or they wouldn't turn to it. But even besides that fact, I feel like there are a lot of people who do drugs because they're lost. It's the same people who drink a bunch of, who turn to alcoholics because they're depressed, or they do it to escape their issues. I think people will turn to stuff like heroin because it gives this crazy euphoric feeling. I don't think that you should use marijuana to escape your problems or anything like that, but if marijuana was legal and you could use it for a more therapeutic use as opposed to turning to a harder drug, which people do, I think that it would be, obviously, like John was talking about, it's a way better for you, and there's not a lot of negative side effects, especially when you compare it to something like heroin. I feel like even though they do different things and they have different highs and different effects on someone, I think that they are still used for similar kinds of things, especially when it comes to pain and that kind of thing. So I don't know if it's a substitute in every situation, but I feel like there are some situations where it's a decent substitute, enough where I think it would make a big a difference. But like I said, I don't know all of the things that marijuana can do or THC can do health wise that would relate to an opioid or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I think you make a really good point. It could potentially, bring the use of harder drugs, I guess, for lack of a better word, down, because you're not having to. It's easily available, so you don't have to resort to those more intense drugs, especially for someone who might have an issue, and if they could just go to the grocery store and buy a gram, and instead of having to go to their dealer down the street who's got the hard stuff, and that and
right. If it's
yeah.
illegal, then it's no different than buying heroin from a dealer or something else.
That's so true. That's
right.
so true.
Exactly.
And I think
so.
Yeah.
So why not?
I know, like,
Right.
so
And that's my question. So why do you think it is still legal? Why is it still so controversial when it's more than ever? There's not a lot of negatives. There's a lot of positive. Why in the world is it still illegal? And why is there talk on bringing the war on drugs back even harder, and marijuana is included in that?
There's no separation to some people in Congress and Supreme Court, and the people making the decisions are so stuck in their old ways and not willing to look at the blatant facts, in my opinion, that they're just not going to change it until they're out of office or overruled.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think politics is standing in the way now. I mean, I think society, we've all become a little more educated on it, and what and the states that have legalized it recreationally, Colorado, Oregon, now California, they're kind of showing the potential future of what it could be. The benefits, and not just health wise, but economically. Like you said earlier, Adam, Colorado's economy has boomed in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm not sure if that's a direct result of the legalization, but it certainly doesn't hurt, and you're able to tax it, you're able to regulate it, the government's able to make some cash. When I used to work at Verizon, I had a customer. He would come in occasionally, mostly during the wintertime, because he had a second home in Colorado, and he owned this medical marijuana business with two of his friends. And when the state of Colorado legalized recreational, they had a choice. They could either stick to like the business that they were doing and see if they could maintain it, or they could decide if they were gonna get into the recreational business. He was in a partnership with 2 other guys, and they voted to go into the recreational business, and he opted out. So he left it, and they kept on going. And he said they were doing amazing, but just his moral ethics couldn't allow him to do it for whatever reason. But he was saying, yeah, I mean, I think he said in the year 2016, I think, and I could be misquoting the year, but he said every person in the state of Colorado got a tax refund by the state because of the marijuana taxes, which says a lot, like, I think they might be onto something here. You know what I mean? I don't know, it's crazy
If that
stuff.
wasn't true, that could.
What, John?
If that wasn't true, if everybody in Colorado did get a tax return, that would be awesome. But just think that could help boost so much in the economy.
Oh yeah. I know. At this point, the pros outweigh the cons, as they say. Okay, so there's another topic that I wanted to discuss, and I think we hit on it a little bit, was the opioid or supposed opioid crisis in this country. I'm actually looking at a 2016 document from the Drug Enforcement Administration. It's called hold on, let me see if I can get it. It's called the National Drug Threat Assessment. And I'm looking at some numbers, specifically in regards to opioids. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay. So this is controlled prescription drugs. So there's a couple of drugs on here, but this is dosage units in billions distributed, and it's got it by year. So in 2006, the amount of dosages that were distributed in the U.S. was 6.4 billion units of hydrocodone. In 2014, that number jumped to 7.8. Oxy, 2006, there were 3 billion units in circulation. Now there's 4.9. Amphetamines, 700 million in 2006. In 2014, 1.4 billion. We don't have data on methadone, but in 2007, 700 million units. That number has remained the same up until 2011, and then they didn't have data, which is weird. And we don't have any data on morphine in 2006, but in 2014, there's 700 million units in circulation nationwide. So the trend, is going up, obviously. And they've got it by region too. This is cool. So, although this is just what they perceive to be a threat. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, so that would infer that there's been an increase in just the circulation. So that might like credence to the opioid crisis. Let's see. Here's a couple more numbers here. Workplace drug positivity of amphetamines. Let's see. This is a hard graph to read, but
Did you say workplace positive?
Yeah, workplace drug positivity.
Okay.
So these are the number of forensic lab submissions that were positive for amphetamines.
Gotcha.
And this number is in millions, I believe. Wait a minute. Is this in thousands?
Probably in thousands.
It's in thousands. Okay. So, yeah, so in 2002, The number of positive amphetamine tests for workplace related was 200,000. Yeah, 200,000. In 2014, that number jumped to 500,000. So it actually more than doubled for testing positive for amphetamines on a work-related drug test. So I mean, this kind of proves that that we do have a crisis on our hands here, and it's kind of rising. What do you guys think has attributed to this change, this drastic change?
Well, it started in the 90s when the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors, told everyone that you couldn't get addicted to painkillers. It wasn't a thing, and that you can feel free to prescribe them as much as you needed to, prescribe them. And even like the lobbyists, said, we'll give you a little bit extra here and here if you prescribe this many drugs to the doctors. And so they just prescribed a whole bunch of them. And then in the 2000s, it started to become a huge problem. And then I was reading on it just the other day. It's coming from I think the National Drug Institute. And I don't have the exact numbers, but it's obviously gone up. But it started with the pharmaceutical company saying, "Oh yeah, it's totally fine. You can do all these, no problem." And they may not say that today, but I had kidney stones in 2015, right? And it was the worst pain I've ever had in my life, like by far. I've never been in the fetal position. I was in the fetal position. I puked from the pain because it hurt so bad. Like I've never gone through anything that bad, and I hope I never go through anything that bad again. But I went to the emergency room and they prescribed me Oxycontin, and I didn't mind it because I legitimately needed it. And so it I needed it, and it got me through the pain, and I was really glad I had it. And I think they gave me 30 pills, and I ended up going through them because I needed to. And so I needed a refill. And so I called the doctor's office. And even 30 pills then was like, holy crap, this seems like a freaking lot. It seems like a lot of pills for someone who doesn't ever take medicine. Right. But I went through them, so obviously I needed them. So I called the doctor's office, and I asked for a refill, and I had to go pick it up from the doctor's office because of what it was. And they wrote me a prescription for 60 more pills. 60 more Oxycontin pills, man. And this stuff is no different than heroin, dude. It's legal heroin. And it was like, holy crap. Like, you got to know, if you did your research, I'm on the tail end of this kidney stone. Or you could have asked to do some kind of procedure. You know what I mean? And on one hand, I'm glad because I didn't have to go through the hassle of getting more, but I definitely didn't need 60. Like, even if the drug companies aren't pushing them on doctors or trying to sway them, saying, hey, we'll give you a little bit extra or give you these incentives if you prescribe a little bit more of our medicine. Even if that's not the case, it's just pure carelessness on the doctor's part to say, yeah, we'll give this, this young dude 90 pain pills for a kidney stone, which we're not even going to see how far it's moved or anything like that. It's so careless. And that stuff is so addictive. I definitely found myself, there were a few times where I craved it when I didn't have it. And that's when I stopped taking it. Cause I was like, I can't, man. And I ended up getting rid of the stone on my own, but it's just like, ooh, I don't know, man. That was the first sign. I was like, holy crap, like this is just pure careless thought on these doctors' parts. I can't believe it. And it leads to so many people getting addicted to this stuff. And then how many people are dying from it in our country, and how many people are addicted to it. And I don't know, it's a definite problem. I can see why.
That's crazy. 90 pills for, granted, I'm sure you were in a lot of pain, but how long did one of those pills last?
4 to 6 hours.
About 4 hours. 4 to 6.
4 hours. Okay, hold on a second.
3 a day. 30 will last you 10 days. Maybe 2 a day. You take it as needed.
You sure?
Yeah,
it's a pain reliever. It's not
So they gave you, if my math is correct, they gave you 15 days worth of pills where you were always on it.
Yeah, and because the recommendation was to stay ahead of the pain in reference to the kidney stone, and I could take them every 4 hours. as needed. But they recommended to continually take them so I could stay ahead of the pain, because you never knew when it was going to move.
Sure. They encourage you to take it even though you may not be in pain, but you could be in pain, so keep taking it.
Right.
That's very eye-opening. I've only been prescribed pain, like serious pain meds, like once in my life, and that was in high school. I got my wisdom teeth out. The doctor prescribed me Vicodin. I probably had like 2 or 3, and then that was it. Like the pain wasn't horrible, but he gave me a prescription for like 30 or 40 pills. Like, holy shit! Like the pain would be gone in like a week tops. Like. Jesus, yeah, I didn't need that many pills, and looking back, I didn't really think much of it. But now that you say that, I'm like, wow, they just like willy-nilly just gave out this very addictive pain medication that and it's not like you're at the hospital and they're like monitoring you. Like they just give you the pills and say, here you go home, take it.
Right, that you could share with anybody. You know what I mean? You could do with whatever. And obviously, it's illegal to do that. But like you said, it's not being monitored with something that's highly addictive.
All right, then, Adam, whenever you were passing your kidney stone, every day they'll give you 3 pills, and you got to go back every single day to get more.
That's not what I'm saying. And you make a good point. You definitely make a good point.
You have
I was kind of saying
overcompensate for the comfort of the customer, really, because that's healthcare.
Right. With the kidney stone, it makes
done correctly.
Yeah, you're in it. That's you make a really good point. You're totally right. I was thinking of it more along the lines of the wisdom teeth, because that's a procedure that a lot of people do, and like you can have a pretty general idea of when the pain is going to go away unless it gets infected, which also happens enough that you can predict it. Something like a kidney stone, you can't exactly predict how that thing is going to move because it is different. Almost like it's quite very. Excuse me, but something with your wisdom teeth. It could, someone could have a low pain tolerance and they would need to do it very often, but you have a pretty good idea of how long that's going to last because it's such a often done procedure. So you're definitely right, especially in the kidney stone vein. But I was just thinking more along the lines of the wisdom teeth. But you make a really good point. You're right.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's just nuts. They just give them away like candy. Like, should they be doing that? I get every situation is different, but we just had 2 instances, personal experiences that they probably overdid it. That they probably shouldn't have given us as much as they did. And maybe that could be a solution. I don't know. Looking at some more statistics here, I'm just full of knowledge today. So this is also from that same report from the DEA. This is a source where pain relievers were obtained for most recent non-medical use. And this is 2013. 53% of people received pain relievers for non-medical use from a friend or relative, free. And of those people, 83% of those people that were prescribed it got it from one doctor. So 21% of people who got the drug were prescribed it, but 53% of them who were using it for non-medical use, so just abusing it.
I think a lot of that is so rebellious, it's induced.
Right. So these were people who didn't have a prescription but wanted the drug. 53% of them, their friend or relative just gave them one for free, and 21% of them got it from a doctor. 4.3% got it from a dealer or like a stranger, and 15% bought it or took it from a friend or relative. So they're in so much abundance that we're just giving them away to these users, to these chronic addicted users. So like that's another eye-opening stat for me as well. That's insane.
Well, that's kind of the point that I was saying earlier, that you kind of were talking about too, is that like it's just you're given there's so many out there, and it's such an addictive thing, and you're just giving them away, and that you just don't know what could happen. You know what I mean? So what do you do? Because John, you really did make a really good point. Like, are you going to make this person go back to the doctor every week and they honestly need them, and make it such a hassle? But at the same time, they can share it, they can give it. Like you said, you may need to be overprescribed because you never know how the pain's going to end up and how the person's going to take it. But what do you do? Because obviously, if the percentages are that high for a friend or family member just giving it or selling it to another individual, then there's obviously a problem. But what can you do? What's the solution?
I think it starts at the top. The drug companies make so much on these drugs, and if they don't keep supply high and keep people and demand high, then they'll lose their market. So they encourage the hospitals, they encourage the doctors to buy in bulk. Well, what happens when you buy in bulk? A lot of it sits, and what happens when products sits on a shelf or in a storage closet? Simple economics. It loses value. The longer it sits there, the more you're losing money. Healthcare is the same. Especially with pills, they paid X amount of dollars for 1,000 pills, and this doctor's about to write this script, and he probably in the back of his head's like, this guy probably only needs 5 or 6 of them, but I'll also subscribe him 30 because we need to get rid of these pills. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that is the case, but it makes sense that so much supply causes this type of crisis. I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
I agree with what you said for sure. I think a lot of it too could be regulated differently. Instead of a doctor prescribing it, obviously a nurse practitioner can, or a LPN. I mean,
Wait. So are you saying that nurse practitioners can prescribe it as well, and LPNs
no,
and
they
stuff?
can't.
Oh.
No, there's a
Okay.
certain degree that can, is there not?
I didn't think so. I thought you for those, especially opioids. I think you definitely need a doctor's prescription to get it legally.
I've got you. I don't know. There's so many things causing the issue. I mean, insurance companies, people don't have good enough health care to be going to the doctor all the time to have a high dollar copay or a deductible in order to get the treatment that they need. And so if they do it once and get a decent amount, well, then they're overly covered. It sucks because the people needing it are getting penalized because of the people abusing it. And it's always going to be like that with everything in life. But if you find the answer to fix that, you will fix so many other problems. It's like,
Yeah, I see. To me, and I think I mentioned this in previous podcasts, but to me, it's all about money, man. It's all about the economy. It's all about the dollars that you can generate, no matter if it's, um, buying a car or drugs or healthcare. It's just the way our system is set up. If there's a way for someone to get ahead and make money at the expense of others, they're gonna do it. It's just the way it works. And oh gosh, there's a show on Netflix. It's a documentary on a company called, and for the life of me, I can't remember now. Let me look it up. But anyway, so this company was gouging the price of drugs horribly, and the price of this drug, if my memory serves, it was a drug that was needed for these people with this condition to live. If they didn't have this pill every day, they would die. And the cost of that pill went up 3,000% or something like that, some crazy number in
I remember hearing that
in 3 years, because they just decided that they wanted to and they needed to make a profit. So that pill went from $2 or $3 a pill to $200 a pill. And these families were like going bankrupt to try and like buy these pills. And what was the name of that company? I can't. I'm gonna look it up, but that's insane. Like that is affecting people's lives, and they just did it for a buck.
Well, do you know Martin Shkreli? Have you heard about him? I think you might be talking about
I
him.
think he
I'm
is
not sure.
too. HIV med.
Is that what it was? I don't know what the drug was, but he was part of a healthcare company, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And um he got them to raise the price of this certain drug by an insane percentage and ended up going to prison for it. He's a real interesting dude to watch, though. Yeah, and he's done some Vice interviews and stuff like that. And you see his decked out apartment. It's super nice, like top of the line everything. And he talks about it. But in a bunch of interviews, he's like, a part of the reason I did this is to show what a joke the healthcare system is and that the insurance companies can run everything. Because if we say, we're going to just jack this price up, we can do that. We can absolutely do that because of the way of how broken the system is. So he got sentenced to prison, as he should, but I think 7 years in jail. But he was also doing it to make a point, and I don't think it's okay. But I mean, the point was kind of made that the system is definitely broken. It's part of the reason I honestly think marijuana is still illegal because, I mean, it blows my mind, especially living in a state like Illinois, right? That is knee deep in debt. Like nothing happens here, nothing works right, and there's so much corruption because of that debt, and yet they won't legalize marijuana for whatever reasons, because
well, I think now they are there is a bill on the House, the Illinois House floor, to legalize recreation, but we'll see if it passes. But
we'll see. But
yeah,
even nationwide, it's the fact that it's still legal. I think it's a testament in a huge part to the drug companies and the fact that the lobbyists, I believe, are totally not. I believe they're obviously investing lots in politicians to, I think to at least to keep the opioids and stuff like that around and as prevalent as ever, even though the data is saying that it's not a good thing that they're so prevalent in our society. And the fact that marijuana, I honestly think, could help a lot of those situations, especially for the pain relief aspect, and yet it's still illegal and yet has way more not more health benefits, but health benefits a different way, but way less negatives and way less addictive tendencies than those harder drugs, which can do good for a little bit of time, but then get addictive over time. Like you said, it's about making a buck. And why would you make this thing that can be grown from the ground, anybody could grow, that you can get almost anywhere? It's the same as buying a soda from a it's the same as buying a beer from somewhere. Because you have to be a certain age and stuff.
Sure.
And let the people do it themselves, when you can make this thing that you control the price of. You control how much it's needed and how much it's given out. You take the control away from the people and you do the dealing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is my whole view of the government, and it just, I don't know, it seems to make sense to me and sync up well. But
yeah, for sure.
And I think the data kind of points to that too.
Yeah, I would agree. So the company that I was thinking of was Valiant. They have since gone bankrupt, but so the drug was called Daraprim. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but they raised the price of this drug from $13.50 a pill to $750. The Valiant's business model. On average, pharmaceutical companies spend 18% of their revenue on R&D, so development of new drugs and stuff like that, to try and find cures and stuff. Valiant decided to cut their R&D budget to 3%, which increased their bottom line. But they also dropped a lot of their like outlier drugs and only focused on like the drugs that were like making them money. So not only did they stop focusing on making new drugs to help people, but they raised the prices of the drugs that they were already selling. So let's see. Let me look at the numbers here. Acquisitions by the best of race. Yes. Oh, all right. So their business model, they lost customers, but because the prices were raised so high, the company became rich. So this patient was taking a drug developed by this pharmaceutical company, and the cost per year for this drug was $1,300. When Valiant took them over, that cost rose to $21,000 a year in 2017, and then at the time of the film, it was costing this family $289,000 a year to get this pill for his wife that would keep her alive, all off the backs of this crazy, corrupt pharmaceutical company that just didn't. They just wanted to make a quick buck, and they were just abusing it. It's just crazy to me. But yeah, you guys should watch that if you've got some time. It's
Did you
on
find the name?
it's a TV series called Dirty Money, and the
Okay,
episode's
I
called
see that one.
Drug Short. So, if anyone's wanting to check that out, it's very interesting. Goes into a lot of the corruptness of the drug industry. So, well, guys, time's flying by. I really just wanted to cover, just kind of mostly just the marijuana debate as well as the opioid crisis, and I think we got some good discussion. Was there anything else that you guys found that you wanted to like discuss in terms of drugs or in terms of like controversies that are happening?
No, I kind of want. You remember I talked to you about the I think tobacco needs changes in the regulations.
Oh yeah,
I think that could almost be a entirely separate podcast.
Okay. Well, no, like we've got a little bit of time. We started late, so um, what was your idea with tobacco?
Just how. Yeah, I'm lost on. I had it all collected and I don't have it with me. It's at work. Um, how the tobacco regulations are changing. Hold on a second. I'm gonna find it.
So are you wanting to like discuss like changing the laws or just like changing the age
I
restriction
just think
or raise or like
everyone's thoughts on how. I guess yeah, it would go in this podcast. How tobacco is still legal and
how it's still
marijuana is
legal?
not. Yeah,
Oh, that
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, it's just
it's just
you
all
smoke
about
you
how
still
corrupt
smoke,
it
John,
is.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that um, from your own experience, is it worth the little, I guess, I've never smoked, like maybe once, but like I is it worth, smoking and to like get that little bit of high for just
No, it's
all
not
of
about the
all
high. It's more just like it's such a habit now. Like
yeah.
Hmm.
10 years of the same thing every single day. And it's
Yeah.
addictive because of all the additives.
Mm.
Addictive as heroin, some people even say.
Hmm.
The kick. So the fact that that's legal for people to just go buy willy nilly because of the revenue that's generated off of that is insane. It's one of the most insane things for me to wrap my head around. Like it's blatantly killing thousands and thousands of people.
More than that, it's killed millions and
It's
millions.
millions. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure. So you
What do
would
you
yeah, okay. Go ahead, Adam.
what do you think when you first started? What made you want to do it, and was it a feeling that kept you there? What makes people want to do it, and what makes them first get into it? Do you think like what
I
about
think
it? What positive outcome does it have?
I think a lot of it for me was the rebellious factor, is what got me started. And then almost kind of an anxiety relief or while I'm driving, it's something to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then it just became so ingrained after doing it for so long, and it is habit forming. And
Oh yeah, it's.
if I quit smoking and don't have a cigarette all day, I'm kind of shaky and jittery and frustrated, pissy.
Have you tried
Sure.
like quitting?
Yeah, I've tried quitting.
And how did that go? Obviously not good.
No, after 3 to 5 days, I just cave in and I'll smoke one.
And then you're back to where you started. See, that's
And then I'm
crazy.
back to square one.
That's crazy. And
I haven't taken it as seriously as I should either.
right, but it's the
Quitting
physical
has to come from wanting to
addiction.
do it.
Yeah, like you have every intention of doing it, but then you get to the point where like you're physically just like craving it. It's hard. It's really hard. And they've been
I'm not gonna.
putting shit into cigarettes for decades.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm not gonna lie. Have you guys ever watched Mad Men, the TV show? Have you heard of it?
yeah, I've heard of it. That's just one of those shows that I've heard it's really good, and I want to watch it, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Man, it is fantastic. But a big thing is like smoking is so prevalent in that show, and this sounds like immature, but it does, man. It makes it look cool as fuck to do. Like they just all look so damn cool smoking the cigarettes. I'm not lying, and like I know a lot of people that got into it just because it looks cool, and like there's a big social kind of aspect to it, I think. And I'm not gonna lie, I considered maybe just like trying doing it just for the like after watching the show, and the show wasn't in any way promoting it, I don't think, but it was enough of a thing to be like, you know what, like damn, some of the facts, like there is something about it, and it's not necessarily that it's just cool, there's something about it, like, and I could do with a little bit of an anxiety relief or just something that takes the edge off a little bit, but and I never did it, but I definitely understand. I didn't like it whenever I've smoked maybe 3 or 4 cigarettes in my lifetime, and I haven't really liked any of them, but I definitely get it. Do you think that it's just so accepted nowadays? That's why it's still legal?
I think it's looked down upon greatly now. It's done
Right.
a 180 now.
Yeah.
It used to be in the 80s and 90s.
Why do you think
it was
it's
cool. And now it's gross because people know how bad it is for you, and it is just blatantly disgusting. Look at pictures of people that smoke inside for 5 years or 10 years, and just look at a direct TV remote.
Oh
Disgusting.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
for
yellow.
sure, man.
Or like their walls are all yellow.
Yeah, I mean,
And pillows, and yeah, you're right. But what now? But why do you think it's still a thing?
revenue.
Yeah, it's
Revenue.
Yeah, I mean, they've created lifelong
How many times have
customers.
they increased the taxes on cigarettes? Too many.
So
A
do you
lot.
think that whenever the older generation dies out, do you think it just won't be a big a thing? Do you think, okay, here's actually kind of another thing. I don't want to make us go for too long, but how are cigarettes compared to, to e-cigs and stuff like that health wise? Is it still, I'm sure it's not as bad for you as a cigarette, but is it,
I honestly don't know because there's not 60 to 80 years worth of studies
data out there?
It's been around for 15 years, so we can't see the long-term effects. But I think for the most part, the chemistry behind it is a lot safer, in my opinion. You're not igniting. There's no CO2 burn off. There's no
it's just
carcinogens.
It's just vapor, isn't it? And a little bit of
water vapor,
a little bit of
nicotine.
whatever you want in it. So whether it's nicotine or marijuana or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't think it's good for you though.
Yeah, I think we'll find out more about e-cigs here real soon, and we'll do the comparison. But I think these statistics that I rattled off in the beginning about the younger generation, alcohol use and cigarette abuse is going way down, and
that's true.
That kind of supports your assumption, Adam, about it's becoming less and less accepted. Do I think it'll ever go away? No, but it'll get to a level where it's not going to be a crisis necessarily. It'll just come. It'll always be, but the fact that it's going down is a good sign. People are wising up. All right, fellas. Good episode. Good conversation. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Is that consent?
Is that consent?
Never mind.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
It's a good talk. It's definitely a topic we can do a part 2 on because it's so broad. And
oh yeah, for sure.
I'll save anything else I have for the next one.
Yeah, and I think there are a few others in our group that may want to discuss it a little more. I think they just couldn't make it this week, so we'll try and schedule this another time. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and if you're watching, leave a comment and let us know what you think about the opioid crisis, and the legalization of marijuana, cigarettes, whatever you want. And guys, until next time, this has been another episode of Trivial Objections.